pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. We eat so many shrimp. I got iodine partners.
My bitch a choosing lover, never fuck without a rubber. Never in the sheets like it on top of the cover. Money on the dresser, drive a compressor. Top notch hoes, get the most, not the lesser. Trash like the buck for $40 in the club. Fucking up the game, bitch, it gets no love. She be cross country, giving all that she got. 1,000 a pop, I'm pulling business off the lot. I smashed up the gray one, bought me a red. Every time we hit the parking lot, we turn head. Some hoes wanna choose, but them bitches too scary. Your bitch chose me, you ain't a pimp, you a fairy.
A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. We eat so many shrimp. I got iodine partners.
Baby, you been rolling solo, time to get down with the team. The grass is greener on that other side, if you know what I mean. I show you shit you never seen, the 7 wonders of the world. And I can make you the 8th if you wanna be my girl. I say my girl, I don't mean my woman, that ain't my style. Need a real street stalker, walk a green mile. Piling up the paper on the dining room table, cause you able to realize I'm the truth and not a fable. Baby, rockin' Russian sable, keep that chiller on the rack. What I look like with some $1,000 shit up on my back. I'm $1 million man, they need $1 billion bitch. Put my pimpin' in your life, watch your daddy get rich. Easy as ABC, simple as 1, 2, 3. Get down with UGK, Pimp CBU with B. Cause what's a hoe with no pimp, and what's a pimp with no hoe? Don't be a lame, you know the game and how it goes. We try to get toes.
A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. We eat so many shrimp. I got iodine partners.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Artie of Artie's Corporate Fiction. Hope you guys have been having a good Sunday. Today, it's just going to be a very chill, very easy stream of 2 videos, both of which I've been wanting to kind of take a look at with you guys, but I just never got around to them, and I figured why not. In the meantime, on the bottom of the screen, I'll just be playing a little bit of Dead Space. I'm just rushing through New Game Plus just to get all the upgrades and everything like that. But the first one is going to be involving Mr. Colonel Russell Williams. Now, this one I've seen a good chunk of his other videos, including this one from JCS, but not the entirety of it. I know of his case. It's just, and I know of the weirdness that goes into it. So yeah, I think that one's going to be a trip. The other one is going to involve Elliot Rodgers and, you know, what was it? The like king of incels or something like that. I just remember that when it was, I don't think it was actually his case. It was his copycat case, Alec from Canada. When that happened, I think that was actually the very first time I heard the term incel. And I distinctly remembering asking, I think it was on Twitter, it's like, what the hell is an incel? And that's a trip. So apparently we're listening to the OG, I guess, with this guy. So without making it too extra, I'm gonna have take a listen and start out with Colonel Dead Space. Thank you guys again for joining me today.
David Russell Williams enrolled in the Royal Canadian Air Force in 1987 and was soon promoted to captain by January 1st, 1991. From that moment on, he would have been addressed as Sir by his subordinates and Captain Williams by his superiors. Described as an elite pilot and shining bright star of the military, he quickly rose through the ranks and was promoted to colonel in June of 2004, while also being appointed the role of commanding officer at CFB Trenton, Canada's largest Air Force base. He was essentially in full command of over 7,000 military personnel, all of whom would have then referred to him as Colonel or Colonel Williams without exception. This would have afforded him an extensive amount of psychosocial equanimity and confidence, and wasn't exclusive to his work life. His designated title of Colonel would have been printed on all forms of identification, and every formal encounter would sanctify this military standing. A doctor, lawyer, police officer, or any other figure of authority would recognize recognized and complied to the traditional courtesy of addressing him by his professional rank, boosting his composure and self-assurance each and every time as his elevated social standing and military achievements were accentuated for all to see. There was one exception, however, and that was the day he met Detective Sergeant Jim Smith.
You just have a seat there, Russell.
Before clarifying the psychological relevance as to why a senior detective would purposefully refrain from addressing a highly respected military commander by his formal title, first consolidate each of the elements and circumstances that led to the crossing of paths between these two profoundly dissimilar yet equally fascinating individuals. 10 days earlier, on January 28th of 2010, Andy Lloyd received a call from his mother around midday stating that his younger sister, 27-year-old Jessica Lloyd, had failed to show up to work and wasn't responding to phone calls or text messages. He immediately drove to her isolated home on Ontario's Highway 37 and discovered she wasn't there. There was no sign of a break-in, yet Jessica was known for leaving her doors unlocked, and all of her personal items were still inside the premises, including her phone, passport, and driver's license. Ottawa is known for its remarkably low crime rate and widely recognized as the safest city in Canada. The local authorities had resources to spare, and a missing persons investigation was launched immediately, which included an entire division from the Ottawa Police Force, over 2,000 members of the public, and even a specialist search and rescue unit from the Canadian Air Force. The word spread extremely fast across the city through the help of the media, and on the second day of Jessica's disappearance, an anonymous member of the public came forward with vital information. He stated that while driving home from work the night before, at roughly 3 a.m., he drove past Jessica's house and noticed an SUV parked in a field just a short distance away. He stated that he remembered feeling that something just seemed off, as it was parked in such an unusual area at such a late hour, and he had drove past the premises thousands of times before and not once seen the vehicle before that moment. Police immediately canvassed the area in question, where they found tire tracks in the field and boot prints leading up to Jessica's house. They had attained their first two significant pieces of evidence, which then became the foundation for the next stages of the investigation. Police immediately set up 6 roadblocks throughout the surrounding area and stopped every SUV that passed in the hope of finding a match to the tire tracks. They reportedly stopped over 200 vehicles over the next 4 days, yet had no luck, and were on the verge of reassigning their manpower from the roads to conduct foot patrols in off-road areas and pathways. However, at roughly 7:30 p.m. on February 4th, their luck did a full 180, as the sports utility vehicle of Colonel Russell Williams was stopped. He was reportedly polite and nonchalant about what he thought was a routine traffic procedure and was sent on his way after just 90 seconds. Unbeknownst to him, he was immediately placed under police surveillance from that moment on, as his tires came up as a complete match to the tracks found in the field near Jessica Lloyd's house. 2 days later, on Sunday, February the 7th, he received a call from police headquarters in Ottawa asking him to visit the premises for the purpose of answering questions in relation to an ongoing investigative matter. The colonel didn't inquire further and agreed to drop into the police station immediately. He reportedly told his wife that he would be back for dinner before setting off, and arrived at the headquarters shortly before 3 p.m., where he was greeted by Detective Sergeant Jim Smith, a trained polygraph technician and senior investigator of the Policing Behavioral Sciences Unit.
You just have a seat there, Russell. I'm just going to move your gloves here. That's a little microphone, just to make sure there's nice and clear. As you can see here, everything in this room is videotaped and audio taped. You ever been interviewed by the police in a room like this before?
I have never been interviewed like this.
Oh, no? Okay.
I guess the closest interview by NIS for top secret clearance.
Oh, yeah? All right. Well, again, Russell, I appreciate you coming in.
The gasconade is casually acknowledged, yet quickly brushed to one side by the detective, followed by the informal address to the subject using his first name. He immediately sets the stage for the interview and takes the colonel down from his elevated platform for the sole purpose of stripping away confidence. This increases the telling signs in body language and intonation when information is fabricated, and also decreases cognitive stamina, lessening the amount of time an individual can keep a facade before they essentially break.
An investigation like this, I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate it's been big news, especially down Belleville way. And, you know, obviously our approach to cases like this is that we don't give up on somebody
Yes, this is JCS.
being alive until we get evidence that they're not. So because of that, we're treating Jessica's case as an emergent situation, obviously.
Yeah.
So we're fast forwarding things that we might normally take our time with. And that's why we're here on a Sunday afternoon
Sure.
So again, I appreciate it.
No problem.
We're going to do a pretty thorough interview today.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason for that is because the last thing we want is to be calling people back again and again and again. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over a number of things, and I'm going to explain what all those are to you.
Okay.
I'm a big coffee guy. I don't know if you're a coffee guy or
I am
not,
a
but I
coffee
didn't
guy,
want to
actually,
drink in
yeah.
front of you. So
No, I appreciate that.
All right, go ahead.
I could definitely, are they black?
Yeah, they're just black with sugar. All right, and again, like I said, this interview is going to be very thorough. But again, I have a simple rule when I talk to people. It's I'm sure you're the same way. I treat everybody with respect. I don't know. I ask you to do the same for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by going through what your rights are. Okay.
Okay.
Just like everybody else.
Okay.
Okay. Have you ever been read your rights before?
No.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen it on TV a whole bunch of times, but that's usually the American version. So
Okay.
I'll go over with you briefly. Okay.
Mhm.
Russell, just to avoid any confusion, because people do get confused when they're talked to by the police, is that you're obviously not under arrest here today. Okay. Anytime you feel you want to leave here, you feel free to do so. The door's not locked. Teresa will walk you down the lobby anytime you want. Okay.
Although the subject was free to leave at any time, there was a very subtle yet highly effective subconscious strategy set in place to try to stop this from happening. The detective has sat between Russell and the door. You will see this method utilized in almost every interrogation, as it's a subliminal message essentially telling the subject, if you want out of this room, you have to go through
Me first.
If there's anything that comes up in our interview today, Russell,
I'm actually it wouldn't surprise me, but I wonder if that's something that's actively taught. It wouldn't surprise me though. That's actually a pretty nice, subtle way.
so that you feel you want to talk to a lawyer about, you just let me know. Okay.
Sure.
And the reason for that is I want to explain to you exactly what's going on here. Okay. Jessica Lloyd is one of 4 cases that we're currently investigating. Okay.
Right.
And essentially what's happened is over the past about 4 or 5 months, there have been 4 occurrences that, like I said, that we're looking
Oh,
into.
absolutely, Justin.
2 of those occurrences occurred in September of 2009.
Yeah.
And very briefly, they were up in the Tweed area.
Yeah.
They involved somebody entering 2 different women's houses in the evening hours and committing sexual acts.
Yeah.
Okay.
During 2009, there were 34 break-ins and attempted break-ins in the quiet town of Orleans, Ottawa, resulting in the theft of hundreds of intimate female garments, 1 incident of rape, and 1 incident of forcible confinement. All of these occurrences took place not far from the home of Russell Williams, who is now the prime suspect for each of these infractions at the time of his interrogation.
Oh my God. He said 34?
In November of 2009, a young lady by the name of Marie-France Como
My people.
yeah, was found murdered in her home in Brighton.
Yeah.
And we believe that there was a sexual component to that crime as well.
Okay.
Corporal Marie-France Como was a 37-year-old military traffic technician based at CFB Trenton. She was raped and suffocated to death inside her home in late November of 2009, which the colonel was also the prime suspect for at this moment.
And then most recently we have Jessica Lloyd's disappearance. Okay, so essentially when you're looking at those kind of crimes, we're looking at a number of different potential criminal charges. All right.
Absolutely.
We're looking at issues all the way from the most serious one, which is first-degree murder, kidnapping, sexual assault, break and enter with intent to commit sexual assault,
Yeah.
forcible confinement. Okay, and so what I want to make sure you understand, and this is what we've been doing with everybody we've been talking to, is that clearly when we find out who's responsible for one or all of those crimes, they could be charged with one or all of those offenses. Okay, whether it's you or whether it's anybody else. All right.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's important that we make sure that people understand what they have to do and what they don't have to do when they're talking to us. Okay? So as I said before, any point today you feel the need, you want to speak to a lawyer, you let me know, and we can take you to a room where you can do that in private. Okay? Is there any reason you want to call a lawyer now?
Nope.
Okay.
These first 2 attacks happened not that far from my place in Tweed. Well, the second one did.
Yeah.
We didn't even know the first one had happened, but I understand that was reasonably close as well. But the second one was very close.
Yeah.
So certainly at the time, the OPP did a door-to-door.
Yeah.
And within a couple of days, probably the same night. So I spoke with a couple guys then.
The analysis of vocal intonation is a tricky thing when dealing with interrogations, as it cannot be used as evidence in court, yet intuition would give many the sense that discomposure is emanating from the colonel at this moment. The way he is speaking comes across as slightly nervous and unsure. He would appear to most as being agitated in the manner he is both processing information and communicating his responses. This type of cognitive recognition is a difficult thing to articulate into words, and investigators simply characterize it as gut instinct, which Detective Jim Smith would have no doubt been feeling at this moment.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm aware of that from looking at the different cases. And essentially, Russell, in a nutshell, that's what we wanted to talk to you about. Okay, those 4 cases are of concern to us, and you've kind of almost hit the nail on the head about some of our issues that kind of make us want to talk to Russell Williams. Okay, because essentially there was a connection between you and all 4 of those cases. Would you agree? Geographically,
And then I guess
or
I drive past, yes, I would have to say there's a connection, yeah.
The colonel is asked to state his movements and activity over the past 4 days, which is known in forensic psychology as gathering pretext. The detective wants to get an initial alibi from the suspect before the confrontational phase of the interrogation begins. This is the most calm a state that he intends to keep Russell in before he ramps up the pressure, and a more relaxed suspect often results in more detailed pretext, thus more information to scrutinize and correlate with any changes made at a later stage.
Friday on the day I was, Friday on the day I was at home most of the time. Most of the day I had a sort of a stomach flu.
okay. In Ottawa or Tweed?
Tweed.
In Tweed?
Tweed is a village in Ontario where the colonel had a second vacation home located roughly 125 miles from his house in Ottawa.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we backtrack then. So all day Friday, you're at home,
Yeah.
and then what time do you leave to go to the base to sleep there on the Friday night?
Not sure. Probably just went in for just before bed. So I probably left Tweed at between 8 and 9 or so.
Okay. And you get to the base and spend the evening there and get up for the 5:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So we backtrack from there. When did you arrive at your home at the cottage? I don't want to get confused between your home in Ottawa and the home in Tweed.
understood.
So,
No, I had been in Tweed all week.
yeah.
The week prior now. Yeah, I think that's the case. Was in Tweed all week. Flew Saturday. Headed to Ottawa Saturday night.
Okay. So if you didn't have the stomach flu on the Friday, what was your
I think
schedule
it was
that
something
day?
like 8, really.
Okay.
What would have been my schedule? Just a standard schedule in the office.
Okay.
So, ops brief in the morning, a couple of meetings. I can't remember what the specifics were going to be.
Okay. So Thursday night you slept at Tweed, or you?
Yep.
All right. And what did you do Thursday during the day?
Thursday during the day, I was at the base again. I think it was a fairly standard day. I can't recall exactly, but yeah, nothing.
At 10:07, I checked in.
I was not flying, so I was at the base. So I would have gone in early in the morning, back in the evening again.
Okay.
The method of gathering pretext is then focused on the murder of Marie France Como.
Okay.
Now I'm not going to walk you through November, but I'm going to take you to a date that's probably pretty fresh in your mind. The day that Marie France Como.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you found out?
I do. Yeah, I was sent an email. Well, as soon as the ops staff and the base learned, they told me.
Okay.
So I got an email. I can't remember if it was late at night, early in the morning. It was certainly. I saw it. I want to say first thing in the morning because I had just come back from Ottawa. I was in Ottawa for a set of meetings on one of the days. I can't remember what day of the week we're talking about, but yeah. No, I mean, obviously when your people gets killed, it gets your attention. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I very much remember that coming in.
And How did you know Marie-France Como?
I'd only met her once. She was on a crew I was on just after I got to the base.
Okay. Do you know roughly when that happened?
That we were on the same crew?
The time you met her, the one time there, yeah.
It was soon after I got to the base, so I don't remember exactly, but I would say in the first couple of months, so August, September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you got that email notifying you that something had happened.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of a clear recollection as to how your schedule was going that week?
Well, I can't remember what day that the message came in. Just a second. No, I can't remember what day of the week, but I'm just thinking there was a whole bunch of activity.
I know. I'm just going to play in the background.
No, I can't remember the day of the week.
This was the third time in quick succession the colonel stated that he couldn't remember the answer to the question. A normal interaction between two parties would most often elicit the person posing the question to reassure the individual it was directed at. Statements along the lines of, "Don't worry if you can't remember, we'll move on," or "It was a long time ago, it must be difficult to recollect," would be afforded as a form of consolation and to also break the uncomfortable silence. Even during a legitimate witness statement, some form of emotional assistance or encouragement will often be given, especially to someone in the midst of recollecting a distressing moment or time period from the past. On this occasion, there is no such reassurance from the detective whatsoever, only a stoic gaze and not a single shift in body posture during the moments of silence.
I'm just trying to think through the news reports I read. No, I'm sorry, I can't remember what day that was, but what we learned after the fact was that the MPs had learnt of her death, I think quite a bit after her body had been discovered.
Okay.
So I think what happened. Sorry, just a second.
So if we were to do a similar investigation in your background, is there anything you can think of that anybody may have misinterpreted, or anything in your history that somebody might say Russell Williams
Absolutely
did this?
No.
Okay.
Be very boring.
What's that?
It'll be very boring.
All right, because essentially that's what I'm looking at. Is it? You seem like a very intelligent person, and I think you can see how a surprise like that would certainly set off some alarm bells in our investigation, right? Okay. So the next thing we need to cover off is, I'll just ask you this straight out. Given the types of crimes we're investigating, do you get much chance to watch television shows, CSI, things like that?
I do watch.
Okay.
I prefer Law and Order, but I do.
Kind of curious where this is going. He's going to drop the bomb that we have forensic evidence against you?
Watch CSI occasionally, yes.
Okay. So you have an idea of, obviously, the forensic capabilities, things like that are out there. What would you be willing to give me today to help me move past you in this investigation?
What do you need?
Well,
DNA.
Would you be willing to supply things like fingerprints, blood samples,
Sure.
things like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only two pieces of evidence that police had acquired at this point in time were the tire tracks and the footprints outside the missing person's residence. What many are unaware of is that the DNA found on Marie-France Como was not admissible, as her body was highly decomposed at the time of discovery, thus making any genetic analysis virtually impossible, as this was before the era of the latest DNA testing method known as next-generation sequencing. Only one of the sexual assault victims had male DNA found on the back of her neck. Yet this was by far the least severe attack, which falls into the bracket of forcible confinement, and had no exterior elements connected to the more serious infractions of murder and rape. The evidence of the tire tracks would be easily refuted by a defense team, as they were a relatively common brand for off-road vehicles, which would extinguish the BRD standard of proof, also known as guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. The only significant piece of evidence were the footprints. It was the singular and emblematic element linked to the culpability of Jessica Lloyd's disappearance, and notice how the colonel looks down at his own boots as he gives his response to the following request.
Footwear impressions?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I think that's what we're gonna ask you to do.
Okay.
All right. I told you when I came in here that I'm gonna treat you with respect, and I've asked you to do the same for me. We talked about the whole idea of how we've approached you here. Okay, the trying to be as discreet as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the problem is, Russell, is every time I walk out of this room, there's another issue that comes up. Okay. And it's not issues that point away from you, it's issues that point at you, okay? And I want you to see what I mean, all right? This is the footwear impression of the person who approached the rear of Jessica Lloyd's house on the evening of the 28th and 29th of January, okay? Because essentially when you're dealing with footwear impressions, we have a gentleman on the OPP who's basically world-renowned. His name is John Norman. And essentially with footwear impressions, you're in a situation where you're pretty much in the area of fingerprints, okay?
All of the previous
Is that
affirmations were fabricated for the sole purpose of heightening psychological pressure. Footprints are not
I was gonna say, like, that sounds like a bunch of BS to me, but I imagine he's yeah, doing exactly what JCS is saying.
even close to being as indistinguishable nor incriminating as fingerprints.
This is a photocopy of the boot that you took off your foot just a little while ago, okay? Now, I'm not an expert in footwear impressions, so I rely on the experts. Footwear impressions are very much like fingerprint comparisons, okay? You take a look at this print, and again, this is one print. This person walked through, there's several different prints to compare. So we're going to get features off of one print to compare, features off another print to compare. These are identical. Okay. Your vehicle drove up the side of Jessica Lloyd's house. Your boots walked to the back of Jessica Lloyd's house on the evening of the 28th and 29th of January. Okay. You want discretion. We need to have some honesty, okay? Because this is getting out of control really fast, Russell. Okay, really, really fast. This is getting beyond my control. All right, I came in here a few hours ago and I called you the way I called you today because I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt. But you and I both know you were at Jessica Lloyd's house, and I need to know why.
I don't know what to say. It's
Well, you need to explain it because this is the other problem we're having, Russell, okay? Again, these decisions are made by me. Right now, there's a search warrant being executed at your residence in Ottawa, okay?
Oh my God.
Your wife now knows what's going on. There's a search warrant being executed at your residence in Tweed, and your vehicle's been seized, okay? You and I both know they're going to find evidence that links you to these situations. Okay. You and I both know that the unknown offender male DNA on Marie France Comeau's body is going to be matched to you, quite possibly before the evening's over. Okay? This is a major investigation. The Center of Forensic Science is on call 24 hours a day helping us with this. Your opportunity to take some control here and to have some explanation that anybody is going to believe is quickly expiring. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Russell, listen to me for a second, okay? When that evidence comes in, when that DNA match, when that phone rings and somebody knocks on this door, your credibility is gone. Okay? Because this is how credibility works, all right? And I know you're an intelligent person and you probably don't need to hear this explanation, but I also know your mind's racing right now, okay? Because I've sat across a lot of people in your position over the years, okay? The bottom line is that as soon as we get that piece of evidence that solidifies it, DNA, okay? As soon as the expert in footwear impressions, the expert in tire impressions calls and says, yes, I've examined those and they're a match, it's all over. Because as soon as that happens, where's your credibility? Where's your believability?
I'd say he's pretty good.
Russell,
Shit, even I'm feeling the pressure.
you know there's only one option. What other option is there?
What's the option?
Well, I don't think you want the cold-blooded psychopath option.
What if that's my
I might be wrong.
What if that's what if that's it? What if that's it?
Because don't get me wrong, I've met guys who actually kind of enjoyed the notoriety, got off on it, got off on having that label. Bernardo being one of them. I don't see that in you. If I saw that in you, I wouldn't be back in here talking to you, quite frankly.
Backhanded compliment.
But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you got me fooled. I don't know. This is over. And it can have a bad ending where Jessica's parents continue to wonder where her daughter's lying. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a huge search still underway, and it'll continue. It'll continue until her body's found. Once that happens, then I don't know what other cards you would have to play. What are we going to do? Russell. What are we going to do?
Call me Russ, please.
Okay. What are we going to do, Russ? Is Jessica somewhere we can find her easily? Like, is this something where I can make a call and tell somebody to go to a location and they're going to find her, or is this something where we have to go and take a walk? Russ, maybe this would help. Can you tell me what the issue is you're struggling with?
Why doesn't he ask for a lawyer? Because usually people at this stage, I mean, I feel like, honestly, I don't know. So a part of me doesn't know, because I think most of us on the outside who don't have the kind of pressure that they're in right now, I feel like for them, it's like it's the last thing on their might be the last thing on their minds, even though it should be the first thing on their minds. To be honest, if he should have gotten a lawyer from the instant that they started talking about his car. But because I can only speculate that because there's so much pressure on him, he's now considering his options as to, how much time he's going to get. Never mind whether or not he's going to get a lawyer. Because right now the detective is giving the impression that they have him dead to rights, even though they don't have much of anything to go on.
It's hard to believe this is happening.
Why is that? Why is it hard to believe? Russ, is there anything you want from me? Is there anything you want me to explain? Is there something missing that you're struggling with that I can...
Actually, I think Dandy makes a good point here, saying a lot of people that feel guilty and feel like confessing, detectives appeal to it, and people go for it because it's like lifting a heavy weight, feels good to tell someone. I agree with that too. You know what? I actually can buy that as well. Because it does feel good to confess and just own up to it, but it's not. We're not talking about like eating the last slice of pizza here. We're talking about freaking sexual assault and murder.
Shed some light on for you.
So yeah. So there actually is that, but the gravity of what you're confessing to is a lot different, I guess, with our experiences.
I'm struggling with how upset my wife is right now.
This investigation will end up costing no less than $10 million. Easy. And they will say no to nothing. Any request this major case manager makes on this case, they've already been told it's approved. Don't even bother asking. So what am I doing, Russ? I put my best foot forward here for you, bud. I really have. I don't know what else to do to make you understand the impact of what's happening here. Did we talk?
I want to minimize the impact on my wife.
So do I.
How are we going to do that?
So how do we do that?
Well, we start by telling the truth. So where is she?
You got a map?
Is she close to where she lives? I've got maps of that general area. Which town is she near? Why don't we start there?
I'm not sure if you give me a map of that covers Calabar down to the highway and over to Tweed and south, I'll show you.
Let me see what I got here. I might have something.
Well, there it is.
Is she inside, outside? Okay. Is she close to a road?
Yep.
All right. Is it something where is she buried, or is she somewhere where if you walk there you would fairly easily see her?
It's here.
Okay. Okay. I'll be right back. Okay. Do you want any water or anything?
Sure.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Just do water,
How long
man.
has she been there for?
A little over a week.
Was it fairly quick from the time she left?
Friday night.
Friday night?
Yeah.
So where was she between Thursday night and Friday night?
In Tweed.
With you?
Yeah.
How long was she alive for?
Almost 24 hours, not quite.
Okay. Russ? You're doing the right thing here. Okay. Barry, the obvious question I'm gonna have for you is, when they go there, and they'll be there shortly, they're gonna find her.
Oh, yeah.
What do you want to talk about?
Guess it's pretty wide open now, eh?
Yeah.
What do you want to know?
Wow.
Do you want to work forwards or backwards?
Wow.
Doesn't matter.
Got him.
Why don't we start with Jessica? How does that start for you?
I saw her in her house on her treadmill. Wednesday night, I guess. Then I noticed she wasn't.
And just like that, the floodgates are open. Never. I would say hats off to this detective for sure. He did a great job.
There Thursday. So I got into the house, look around. Then, and they left. Noticed she'd come home. So I went back in. Through the back patio door while she was sleeping.
Okay. Marie France Como.
There was an open window in the basement of her house when she was away. I went in there a couple of nights before she came.
Oh my God, my parents are. I just saw my parents are in the chat. Hi, mom and dad. Hope y'all are enjoying Puerto Rico.
Looked around. I went back in there late at night when she was at home. She was on the phone in her bedroom. She actually discovered me in the basement.
Oh my God.
She was trying to get her cat to come upstairs, and the cat was in the basement, had seen me and was fixated on me in the corner. She couldn't get the cat up, so she came downstairs to try and get the cat, and weren't sure why she came over to me. I guess the cat was staring at me, and she was wondering what the cat was staring at. The lights were on. So when she spotted me, I had the same flashlight. I subdued her. Tied her up, brought her upstairs. And strangled her later in the morning.
He's giving it all.
Why do you think these things happen? Have you spent much time thinking about that?
About why?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't have any answers.
Ugh. Yeah, that's true. Thank God they didn't go into further detail. But yeah, Danny says he's dying to tell the story. He wants to feel better. Why do you think confession and therapy are so popular? I mean, yeah, When I got the first impression of him, I thought I was going to peg him for being the less empathetic side, that he wouldn't have this, but it does seem like the detective really brought out what kind of whatever guilt or empathy that he had left him in him in order to get him to confess like that. But I honestly had him pegged for the opposite. You never know. All right, so let's go with this one.
He was the young man so upset at his lack of companionship with women that he decided to kill them all instead. And although his day of retribution didn't quite go to plan, he would leave behind grieving families and a long digital trail of clues to his destruction. My name is Adrian, and welcome back to Coffee House Crime. Today we're looking at the case of Elliot Rodger,
I know,
who is
Archangel.
also known as the Killer Virgin, King of the Incels, or as he liked to call himself, the Supreme Gentleman.
Oh,
It's
boy.
been a long time that I've wanted to cover this case. In this video today, we'll be looking at Elliot's history, tying his video logs to his stories, and looking at what eventually led him down his darkest path. I do also have a small announcement to share with you all at the end of this video, but first, I have a story to tell. So without further ado, pull up a seat, grab a coffee and sit back. This is the case of Elliot Rodger. The story of Elliot Rodger first begins east of the Atlantic Ocean in London, England. Elliot was born on the 24th of July 1991. His father, Peter Rodger, was a British filmmaker and photographer, and his mother, Lee Chin, was a nurse who worked on film sets. It's through their encounters at work that the two first found love before conceiving Elliot 2 years later. His parents also had a daughter. Elliot's younger sister was called Georgia. When Elliot was the age of 5, the family moved to Los Angeles, California in 1996, and this was a move to strengthen his father's career in filmmaking. After settling into their new home, Elliot was enrolled into Topanga Elementary School. By all standards, he was a well-behaved kid, even making a few friends in his first year. His childhood seemingly bright and positive. But it was just after his 7th birthday that his first struggle in life appeared. His mother and father would unfortunately divorce, and this would lead both him and Georgia to split their time between the two on weekdays and weekends. Elliot was already described as a shy and quiet person. He was happy but didn't have much confidence, and he would always try to fit in with the cool kids. A sudden change in his home life though would propel his insecurities. 2 months after his 7th birthday, his father Peter would introduce Elliot to a new woman, and her name was Sumaya Akabun. She moved into Elliot's father's household shortly after, and before he knew it, Elliot realised that she was now his new stepmother. The two would argue often, and with Elliot not accepting any discipline from an outsider, this would be a recurring problem in the years to come. Elliot lived a relatively wealthy life growing up. He went on several holidays abroad, had access to general and mental health care, and pretty much got whatever he wanted. But despite the money and gadgets that Elliot owned, his friendship circle slowly dwindled into his teenage years, and he eventually found himself becoming the target of frequent bullying. He still had friends, but not many. The situation would grow more complicated at home too. At the age of 13, Elliot's father and stepmother had a son. Elliot's new stepbrother was called Jazz. In his mid-teens, he started a personal YouTube account called Elliot's Blog, which is where he often complained about his loneliness and reminisced about his childhood.
Elliot Rodger here, and here I am at Serrania Park, the most significant place of my childhood.
It was around this time that Elliot began his path of depression and loneliness,
Unfortunately, the bullying at school didn't stop for Elliot either, even at one point the teasing resulting in Elliot having his head taped to the desk by fellow classmates. It was through negative encounters like this that caused Elliot to move from school to school quite often, and with that, he never made any friends locally. Elliot also started to see a psychiatrist at the age of 16. He was prescribed risperidone, an antipsychotic used to treat schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. He openly admitted in his blogs, though, that he refused to take this medication. After turning 18, Elliot became increasingly isolated. By now, he only had a handful of online friends. He often told his parents that he was unable to make friends in real life, and no girls ever seemed interested in talking to him. Elliot decided that he wanted to improve his life moving forward, and to do this he would try two things. The first one was to learn how to drive, thinking that this would impress women, and the second would be to try and dress better, therefore making him seem more approachable. He desperately wanted to fit into the world and make friends, so along with his new car, he changed his hairstyle and brought a bunch of new clothes. It was noted by his classmates, however, that although he did buy a new car and new clothes, he never actually tried to speak to anyone or make any friends. Instead, he would sit in his car on lunch breaks and expect others to make the first move. His evenings and weekends still continued to be spent alone at home as well. He would spend his time either
Usually not how that works.
playing World of Warcraft or Halo with his three friends, James, Philip,
Oh, God. Wow. Oh no.
and Addison. And more or less, at the age of 18, Elliot recognised that he had spent most of his latter teenage years angry at the world. Upset that he didn't fit in with friendship groups, despite never trying to. And even more importantly to him, he started to become enraged that he had never slept with or even had a girlfriend for that matter. Elliot's perspective on other people had shifted to become more toxic too. He openly admitted in his journal that whenever he saw a couple together, holding hands or kissing, he would feel either intense sadness or rage. At one point, this resulted in Elliot throwing hot coffee over a couple that he saw kissing in a Starbucks car park. And while that action seemed hostile and completely out of order, it was only going to get worse. In the year of 2011, Elliot was 19, and on Saturday the 4th of June, he moved to Isla Vista, a community on the coast of Santa Barbara, California. He moved there to attend Santa Barbara City College, joining a private residence with two other men. It was almost instantaneous that Elliot's bitterness and loneliness extended into his new life though. Within a week he was frustrated with his housemates, and by the end of the month, they had moved out. The situation with Elliot's next pair of housemates though was even worse, and coupled with Elliot's racism, he would argue with the two daily, almost getting into physical fights on a couple occasions.
Wait, oh, there's that too. Anyway.
The longing for a girlfriend continued too. He would often get so angry at seeing couples that it would become a normality for him to run back to his room, sulking and crying. His life continued to worsen in 2012 too. It was this year that he dropped out of all of his classes altogether, not being able to stand the sight of others falling in love. Elliot also spiraled into the trap of gambling with lottery tickets.
Oh,
he believed
God.
that getting rich by winning the lottery would give him all of the female attention that he desired.
That's also not how that works.
2012, he spent over $100 on lottery tickets. Not surprisingly, he didn't win. The next week though, he felt more confident, and so he spent $500 on lottery tickets. No dice, but maybe third time's the charm. Week 3, he spent $700. This too though, ended in a loss. He had nothing to show for the $1,300 he spent gambling. And even worse, he didn't accept defeat. He felt like he deserved it, that he was cheated away from his money. Elliot dipped into one of the worst bouts of depression in his life shortly after this. As spring break flared up in Isla Vista, he spent most of his time in his room, refusing to try and socialise. Angry, sad, and alone. And for the times that he did leave his house, he'd walk by himself, ranting to his video camera about his life.
Hey, Elliot Rodger here. Right now I'm just taking a walk through the park in this really nice, secluded area. I'm just contemplating about my life and how unfair it's been lately. Ever since I started desiring girls, but they never desired me back. Life has been a living hell since then. Right now it's spring break. Everyone else my age is out having fun with their friends and their girlfriends. Here I am, taking lonely walks through a park.
In April 2012, Elliot's long-term childhood friend James also decided that enough was enough. He found Elliot too radical, too negative, and so, with that said and done, he called the friendship off. It was at this point that Elliot now considered himself entirely alone, friendless in this cold world. Late one September night, Elliot drank an entire bottle of wine, or at least he tried to. He ended up spilling an entire glass all over his laptop, completely destroying it. This meant that the next day he had to go to Best Buy to buy himself a brand new one. While he was there, he had to wait a few hours for the store to prepare his order, and so during that time, he walked across the road to a local firing range. This would be a turning moment for Elliot. He had previous thoughts of acting out the day of retribution, a time where Elliot would claim vengeance against women for denying him of his sex life. And it was here in this firing range, after he took his first few shots, that he asked himself,
"What am I doing here? How could things have led to this?"
While his internal question at first sounded hesitant, by the end of the day, he had made his mind up. He had come to the conclusion that humans are just brutal animals, and if he cannot thrive among them, he would have to destroy them all. In his manifesto after this day, he wrote,
"I didn't want things to turn out this way. I wanted a happy, healthy life of love and sex. But if I'm unable to have such a life, then I will have no choice but to exact revenge on the society that denied it to me."
Elliot purchased a Glock 34 automatic pistol in December.
Yeah, so here the problem we're having here is it's not just about getting a car and dressing nice. You gotta be approachable. I didn't have the greatest high school upbringing myself, but I made the conscious choice to change and become more open, and that's what helped, get me out of there. And also it's also a matter of taking responsibility for yourself too. That maybe she's just not into you. And you gotta move. But really it's about
that year. And again during the following spring break, he purchased another firearm, a 6-hour P226. On the 20th of July 2013, Elliot attended a party where he again tried to interact with girls. He'd been working out in his bedroom for the previous 2 weeks, and he thought that this would increase his chances. But again, it ended in him being ignored.
2 weeks? 2 weeks? Alright, look. I've been actually going to the gym since the beginning of December. And I've actually lost weight, thank God. I've actually lost a little over 10 pounds. But I feel like I look generally the same. 2 weeks ain't gonna do anything, buddy. It's gonna be a long process.
In his drunk state, he sat on a 10-foot ledge where other
Thanks, Jassa, for posting the videos. Goodness.
This escalated into an argument where he then tried to push girls off that very same ledge. He failed, and instead he was pushed off the ledge by other men who had intervened. This resulted in Elliot being beaten up, and eventually he would need surgery to repair his broken left leg. This, according to Elliot in his manifesto, is what actually made him start meticulously planning his day of retribution. But with a broken leg and some preparations to make, it would take some time. Fast forward, and it is now the early months of 2014. In those early months, which would be the final months before the planned attack, Elliot spent most of his days outside of his room. He went on hikes in the mountains of Montecito, took long strolls along the beach, wandered to the parks around Santa Barbara, and watched the sunset in many car parks as he contemplated his own existence.
Hey, Elliot Rodger here. I'm just sitting in my car right now, after watching that beautiful sunset descend beyond that hill up there. Enjoying a nice vanilla latte. I've been doing a lot of thinking about how sad and unfair my life has been. All because girls haven't been attracted to me. I've had to rot in bleak and sad loneliness. I mean, you give a chance to all these stupid, obnoxious guys that I see you walking with, but you don't give a chance to me. Why not? I'm such a magnificent guy.
I have to remember that this is the original. Like he's not being a meme of an incel and creeper. This is actually what the memes were made from.
I'm beautiful. You can't deny that. I'm civilized, intelligent, sophisticated. I have a sense of style. And yet you girls don't see it. It's not fair. I deserve them more. I don't understand you girls. It's like your sexual attraction is flawed. It's perverted. This world, it's so twisted.
But anywhere he went, he would see couples together, and this outraged Elliot. During this time, he would record himself in and around his car. He would upload these videos to YouTube, but no one would pay attention to them.
Hey, Elliot Rodger here. I'm just sitting in my car right now, enjoying the view of the beach. And my view has been ruined by this sight right here. In front of me, sitting right there on that bench, is a young couple. I was enjoying such a nice view until they came and sat down and started kissing. This is the reason why life isn't fair. Why can't I experience something like that?
Do something about it! Oh my god, this is what happens when all you do is piss and moan and not actually do something about it. Have agency for yourself. That's what you got. I know. I'm talking to a wall and an idiot.
I have to show everyone why I hate the world. Because no girl would do this with me. I hate them. I hate them so much. It's not fair. Life is not fair.
Only 1 week had passed since that video had been uploaded to YouTube when police came knocking on Elliot's door. Someone had watched the video and they were suspicious that Elliot was unstable. They called a health agency, which in response called the police, and they in response went to him. Police interrogated Elliot outside of his bedroom door, questioning him on if he had any suicidal thoughts. He played the situation down though and said that he was doing just fine. It was a very close call, because if police did go into Elliot's bedroom, they not only would have found his pistols and a plethora of ammunition, but they would have also found his manifesto too. Unfortunately though, they never entered Elliot's bedroom. Elliot's radicalized thoughts were at this stage solidified, and the severity of his emotions were only getting worse.
Hey, Elliot Rodger here. I'm up in the hills in Montecito right now. It's truly a beautiful day. But, as I've always said, a beautiful environment is the darkest hell if you have to experience it all alone. And sadly, I've been alone for a very long time. And my problem is girls. I don't know why you girls are so repulsed by me. I dress nice. I'm sophisticated. I'm magnificent.
You know what? You're right. I have no clue at all whatsoever why girls would be turned off by you or creeped out by you and want to stay at least 150 feet away from you at all. You know what? I can't call it, man. You're right. I can't call it at all.
I have a nice car, a BMW. I'm polite. I'm the ultimate gentleman. Look at how fabulous I look. And yet, you girls, you never give me a chance. And that's just such an injustice because I'm so magnificent. I deserve girls much more than all those slobs I see at my college who are somehow able to walk around with beautiful girls. I mean, look at me. I'm gorgeous. But you girls don't see it. I should be...
Maybe it's more than just the aesthetics. It's a little bit more than just the aesthetics that will attract a woman to you. Maybe.
the one with the girls. But you never give me a chance. It's such an injustice. I don't know why you girls hate me so much. I've always wished I could ask you this, and this is my way of asking you this. This is the only way I can ask you.
Elliot's plans for the day of retribution were complicated and violent. The day was actually spread across two. He planned to first drive to his father's house where he would kill his stepmother and his younger brother, Jazz. He was always frustrated with Samaya, and so for him it would be sweet revenge. And as for Jazz, he didn't want his younger brother surpassing him as a man, so he too had to go. He would only do this if his father was out of town for the week though. He didn't want to harm Peter. Next, he would drive back to Isla Vista with the family SUV, and take the lives of his housemates so he could use the apartment as a place to lure strangers in before beating and killing them. George Chen and Chang Yuan Hong were currently living with Rodger in their shared school apartment. He would then on day 2 target the Alpha Phi sorority, a sorority he deemed as the most beautiful dorm on campus, filled with hot...
Art gets a girlfriend, now he's an expert. No, I am not an expert at all. I'm still working on it, okay? I'm an expert on nobody. I'm only speaking to getting myself out of those thoughts from high school into becoming a not creeper functioning adult in later years, okay? That not all is lost.
Blonde girls. After he was done with them, he would then switch to his SUV and head over to Del Playa, before running over as many victims as possible, and then turning the gun on himself. Elliot Rodger saw himself as a god, deserving of much more than he had on planet Earth. In the final pages of his manifesto, he wrote,
I am Elliot Rodger, magnificent, glorious, supreme, eminent, divine. I am the closest thing there is to a living god. Humanity is a disgusting, depraved, and evil species.
Jesus.
It is my purpose to punish them all. I will purify the world of everything that is wrong with it. On the day of retribution, I will truly be a powerful god, punishing everyone I deem to be impure and depraved.
His preparations for the day of retribution wouldn't quite go to plan though. His plans for day 1 to execute his stepbrother and stepmother would require his father to be out of town, and while he originally did have plans to do so, that was cancelled last minute.
There was much rejoicing.
The consequence to this is that Peter actually and unknowingly saved his...
First, Snickety, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Artie, was your pickup line with Danny, I am a god and you're lucky I'm deigning to speak to you, worship me, end quote. Pretty sure this guy's opening line. No, it was not.
Wife's and his son's lives just by being home. As a result, Elliot ditched his plans for the SUV too. His BMW would have to do, but before he could execute the rest of his plans, he would have to make and upload one final video to YouTube.
Hi, Elliot Rodger here. Well, this is my last video. It all has to come to this. Tomorrow is the day of retribution. The day in which I will have my revenge against humanity. Against all of you. I'm 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin. And it has been very torturous. It's not fair. You girls have never been attracted to me. I don't know why you girls aren't attracted to me, but I will punish you all for it. I don't know what you don't see in me. I'm the perfect guy, and yet you throw yourselves at all these obnoxious men.
Oh my God.
Instead of me, the supreme gentleman. I will punish all of you for it. You will finally see that I am, in truth, the superior one. The true alpha male. Yes. Well, now I will be a god compared to you. You will all be animals. You denied me a happy life. And in turn, I will deny all of you life. It's only fair. I hate all of you. I've waited a long time for this. I can't wait to give you exactly what you deserve. Utter annihilation.
On the 23rd of May 2014, Elliot began his rampage. He started by stabbing his two housemates.
Danny basically stole my thoughts away from me. Like it's like it sounds like he's trying to be Bane with this stupid villain monologue and the laugh. It's you know, you almost want to try to laugh at it but for what he ends up actually doing after this. It would have been funny, but for what he actually does.
George Chen and Chang Yang-hong to death. Their friend Wei-Han Wang was visiting at the time, and he too was killed.
God.
The three men receiving 142 stab wounds between each other.
Oh my God.
At 9:17 PM, Elliot then uploaded his final video to YouTube, titling it Elliot Rodger's Retribution. 1 minute later, he then sent his 137-page manifesto to 34 people. This included both of his parents, other family members, his therapist, his former school teachers, and his childhood friends. His therapist contacted his mother within 5 minutes of the email being sent, and very quickly she reacted by calling his father Peter, and then the police. Both Peter and Li Chin raced from their homes in Los Angeles towards Isla Vista, but by then, it was too late. Elliot was already in motion. He headed to the Alpha Phi sorority with the intention of shooting everyone inside, but when his knocking on their front door went unanswered, he retreated back from the property towards the street. Instead, Elliot shot 3 Delta 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 sorority women who were nearby, killing Cooper and Veronica Weiss,
Oh my
and
God.
wounding Bianca de Kock. He then drove further into town to Pardal Road, before he proceeded on foot and fired several rounds into Isla Vista Deli Mart, killing a student named Christopher Michael Martinez. After killing Christopher, Elliot drove away and continued his rampage, shooting at several pedestrians and drive-by shootings while striking others with his BMW. As he backed onto himself, Elliot got into a gunfight with 3 responding officers near Little Acorn Park. He suffered a gunshot wound to the left hip before speeding away. He was closely pursued as he fled. Still adamant to cause as much carnage as possible, he crashed into a cyclist. In his rage though, he crashed his BMW, and there was no way to flee. Elliot then fatally shot himself in the head, finally bringing an end to his rampage. Police officers would find Elliot Rodgers dead behind his steering wheel only seconds later, and with the cyclist next to him, they would think that both at first were suspects. Both of them would be handcuffed, but a few minutes later, the cyclist would be cleared of any suspicion. Police would soon discover 3 bodies that night, and then another 3 the next morning. Christopher Martinez, a graduating student at UCSB, was pronounced dead in the Isla Vista Deli. He was described as a really great kid that had a bright future ahead. Katie Cooper and Veronica Weiss were both killed outside Alpha Phi sorority house. Veronica was a sweet and friendly young woman who loved sports as much as she did her friends. Katie Cooper was known as an unforgettable smart girl. She was studying art history and archaeology. The following morning, police would find the bodies of Wei-Han Wang, Chang Yuan-hong, and George Chen at 6598 Savile Road, No. 7. Wei-Han Wang was academically gifted in computer programming, and he was looking forward to visiting Yellowstone National Park for his 21st birthday. Cheng Yuan-hong was both smart and kind, known to be always willing to help people out. And George Chen too was sweet-natured, a volunteer at an elderly neighbours organisation when he wasn't seeing friends or tutoring other classmates. On the day after the spree, a candlelit memorial was held in honour of the victims. This was followed by a memorial service at UCSB's Harder Stadium, which held over 20,000 people in attendance. Elliot Rodger's father Peter would then go on to state television to share with the world his anger, despair and confliction. He would then go on to admit that sometimes, due to the pain Elliot caused, that he wished his son had never been born. Despite the widespread damnation to his actions, Elliot Rodger would soon become known as the King of the Incels, a portmanteau of involuntary celibate. Incels are an online subculture of people who define themselves as unable to find a romantic or sexual partner despite desiring one. It is there that Elliot found sympathy and forgiveness for his struggles to both romantically and socially find his place on this earth. But Elliot is better defined as a misogynist, a racist, and a narcissist. He had a strong prejudice against women, clearly spoke against Asian and black people, and described himself to be a god above the rest of mankind. But there were other factors at play here too. He was a man severely struggling with mental illness, something that he had been struggling with for a very long time. And he was also very lonely, not just seeking relationships but friendship too. With a split family and moving around so often, it's easy to see that both his chances to find companionship and overcome his mental obstacles were thwarted. It's thought-evoking to wonder if this massacre could have been avoided entirely if he had received the correct response in his earlier years. That does not diminish his actions though. What he did is unforgivable, but it does underpin the severe consequences in not addressing mental hardships early on in childhood. And the real tragedy here, the lives of 6 others lost. All who had no play or part to Elliot's suffering or rage. Elliot's 137-page manifesto is available online, by the way. It's kind of made this case pretty easy to research. I'll leave the link if you are interested in it below, but a word of warning, it's pretty exhausting to read. Thank you again for watching another case by Coffeehouse Crime, and as said, just...
Yeah, I got no intentions of reading that. I got better things to do with my life. I'd rather play Dead Space a 3rd time straight up on Impossible than read that
a small announcement to make. I wanted to take a moment to thank you so much for supporting me and this channel. When I started Coffeehouse Crime back in January, I had no idea that just 4 months later, we'd be here on 100,000 subscribers. Honestly, that number is unfathomable to me, and it's quite daunting to think how many people now watch my videos. Nevertheless, I'm really excited to see where this goes in the future, and I really do hope that you stick around to see where this all goes. If you haven't noticed, I am trying a few new lighting techniques, so please bear with me while I try and figure this all out. Yes, this is a new shirt to celebrate, and no, it's not plaid, but I did buy another one just for the occasion, so stick around in future videos to see what that one is. If you did find...
So, I mean, there we go. I mean, I'm not surprised. I think the interrogation with Alec is still pretty fascinating to watch. I think largely because of the detective, how the detective clearly did his homework and knew a lot of the internet incel lingo to talk Alec into basically just giving it all away. I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, they had him dead to rights. They caught him alive. He's got thousands of eyewitnesses. The evidence is there. The detective didn't need a confession, but to actually have him open up and explain in detail why he did what he did was pretty fascinating to watch. But I want to thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna go ahead and cook dinner. Wait, what? Yeah, got to take care of dinner, and I don't know. I'll figure out what I'm gonna do later. But we got work tomorrow. So thank you guys again. Hit that like button on your way out. As always, your support's always appreciated. Join my Discord if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks again. Take care, guys. Adios.